Hello students. Last class we had studied about Indian National Congress, moderate and extremist leaders and their work, partition and anti-partition movement. Today we are going to study the remaining part of the lesson. First one, the establishment of Muslim League. The British become very disturbed looking at the overwhelming response to the Indian National Congress in the anti-partition movement. The British once again followed the policy of divide and rule. They have started using the propaganda that for safeguarding the interest of Muslims, they should have a separate political organization. Due to the motivation of the British government, a committee of upper class Muslims under the leadership of Aga Khan made Governor General Lord Minto. Due to the motivation from Lord Minto and other British officers, the Muslim League was established in 1906. Morley-Minto Act. There was a dissatisfaction among the Indians regarding the work of the British government. The Indians felt that the reason of poverty in India was the economic policy of the British, oppressive policy of Lord Curzon, exclusion of educated Indians in the government services, unjust behavior towards Indians in Africa. All these added to the dissatisfaction of the Indian people. As a temporary remedy on the discontent among the Indians, the Morley-Minto Reform Act of 1909 was passed. According to this act, it increased the number of Indian members in the Legislative Assembly and provision of inclusion of same elected Indian representative in Legislative Assembly was made. In the same act, separate electorates were provided to the Indian Muslim. Due to this conspiracy of the British, the seeds of division in India were sown. Lucknow Pact. In the Lucknow session of Indian National Congress in 1916, under the leadership of Lokmanya Tilak, an attempt was made to resolve the dispute in the Indian National Congress. In the same year, there was an agreement between the Indian National Congress and Muslim League known as the Lucknow Pact. According to this pact, the Indian National Congress agreed to separate electorate to Muslim and Muslim League agreed to support the Indian National Congress in its work for getting political rights to India. Home Rule Movement. In 1914, when Lokmanya Tilak was released from the Mandale jail, the First World War had begun in Europe. The direct consequences of this war had to be borne by Indians as well. The rate of basic necessary commodities increased. Many restrictions were put up on the Indians by the British government. This led to the increased dissatisfaction in the minds of the Indians. In these circumstances, Dr. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak started the Home Rule movement. Home rule means self-government. Such a movement also began in Ireland against colonialism. On similar lines, Home Rule movement demanded right of self-government in India. Annie Besant and Lokmanya Tilak made extensive tours in different parts of the country and demand for self-government reached the common people. Tilak firmly stated that Swaraj is my right and I shall have it. The First World War in India, there was an atmosphere in Europe growing dissatisfaction in the minds of the Indians. Popularity of Home Rule movement. In such a conditions, it was necessary for the British to get cooperation from the Indians. The British government decided to prove some political rights to the Indians. In 1907, Montagu, Secretary of State for India, declared that the step-by-step Indians will be given the right to self-government and responsible political system. Tilak also declared that if government is going to show sympathy and considerable attitude towards the demands of the Indians, only then Indian public is ready to cooperate the British. This policy of Lokmanya Tilak is known as the responsible cooperation. Next one, the Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act. In 1919, the British Parliament passed another act to bring constitutional reforms in India. This act is known as Montagu-Chelmsford Reform Act. According to this act, less important departments were transferred to the Indian ministers, whereas the important departments like finance, home affairs and revenue were under the control of the governor. The 1919 Act did not give much exposure to the demand for the responsible government of Indians. Everybody has disappointed due to this act. Tilak criticized the act in following words: "This is neither Swaraj for its foundation." The Indian understood that if they have to subdue the British government, then the agitation needs to be more rigorous. India got prepared for a new movement. So here our lesson number 6 is finished. We'll continue. Complete the assignments properly. Okay, thank you.